Welcome to this new edition of BookBytes on this beautiful Sunday evening. And just to round up the year, I think we've got a lot of celebration to look forward to. If you're in the Johannesburg area, look out for Love Book's birthday celebration with up to 70% off on some of their red dot titles. This evening, I've got a very special guest, an international writer, an award winning poet, and somebody that is possibly new to some of us, the uninitiated, but we've definitely been missing out. I look forward to speaking to author Abhay K this evening, who is the author of at least 9 poetry collections, an editor, titles like The Magic of Madagascar, Alphabets of Latin America, The Eight-Eyed Lord of Kathmandu, and The Seduction of Delhi. He's also the editor of Capitals, New Brazilian Poems, Great Indian Poems, and the Bloomsbury Book of Great Indian Love Poems. His poems have been published in over 100 literary journals across the world, including Poetry Salzburg Review. He received the Sark Literary Award in 2013 and was invited to record his poems at Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. in 2018. His poem song Earth Anthem has been translated into over 120 global languages around the world. And if you Google it, if you go to YouTube, it's available to view. Abhay, welcome to BookBytes. It's wonderful to have you on the show, and we look forward to hearing more, because there was a very, very abridged version of your work and your expertise in the literary field. Welcome to BookBytes.
Thank you so much, Shafinaaz. It's a pleasure to be with you on BookBytes tonight. Special pleasure because the program is being hosted in South Africa and I'm in Madagascar. So it's a double pleasure for me.
Well, we'll consider Madagascar a neighbor for now, and hope to hear about your process. I mean, Earth Anthem has got such a beautiful spiritual and humanist energy to it. And tell us about your writing process. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, it all started in Moscow when I was posted there as a diplomat in 2005. And I was learning Russian language at the Moscow State University, and I had plenty of free time. So I thought, why not to pen a memoir or an autobiography, which would be possibly inspiring for those who would like to become a diplomat like me in India. And that's how it all started. And I started writing down my own biography. I was 25 that time. And and then when I was writing this book, poems started coming to me. And the first ever poem which I wrote is actually part of this memoir. And this poem is called Soul Song. And it's a very short one because you mentioned spiritual, so I would like to recite it. It's mm, a soul song. I was always here as blowing wind or falling leaves, at chirping birds or blooming buds, as the blue sky or the empty space. I was never born. I didn't die. This was a poem which I thought while walking in Delhi University. And when I was writing this book, I, I wrote this poem down. And this is how the journey started. Once this memoir was published in 2007, I started putting together a collection of poems on Moscow, where I was posted. So my first poetry collection is about Moscow actually, and it's called Enigmatic Love, uh, poems from the city of Moscow. And this is how uh, the journey started, and since then it has not stopped.
I've always said that as writers and as human beings, we pretty much have a relationship with the cities that we visit, and cities are a lot like human beings. We pretty much have a relationship with the cities that we visit, and
I think you're back.
I've always said, as human beings and as writers, we pretty much have a relationship with the cities that we live in, with the cities that we visit, and cities are a lot like human relationships. You know, there's a kind of a love-hate relationship. You want to know more about the city, and there's spaces you want to stay away from in some ways. And so it's very beautiful when you can pen some writing, a piece of poetry, a whole collection, in fact,
Right.
in tribute to that experience.
Yes, I mean, uh, I have, in fact, written about cities a lot. My poetry collections are, in fact, named after cities. For example, The Seduction of Delhi, or The Eight-Eyed Lord of Kathmandu, or The Prophecy of Brasilia. These are the books which actually revolve around cities, and people, monuments, legends, history. They all come together in these books. And in fact, I was so fascinated by cities that I edited a whole anthology on cities, and it is called Capitals, which has poems on 185 cities across the planet, written by poets from different countries. Uh, it has uh, poems about any city you can think of or imagine. Uh, it was difficult to find poems on many cities, but then I tried to write a few myself, and also invite the poets from that country to write about them. So I would, mm, I would, I would completely agree with you that we have this organic relationship with the cities. Cities make us or unmake us.
So I know there's a collection where you've also engaged translations, or was this for the Earth Anthem, where you've got writers and poets from the African continent, from some from Southern Africa? How is that process? Because you've networked quite nicely with fellow poets and writers.
Uh, I would like to thank you for introducing me to a number of translators from Southern Africa. So this Earth Anthem is a quest to have a common anthem for our planet. Uh, we have anthems for our schools, universities, football teams, and whatnot. But we don't have a common anthem for our planet, and which all of us can sing together. It does not matter where are we from. Uh, but so this quest is to have translations in as many languages as possible, so that mm, so that everybody can join in. They can sing it in their own language, and and that's how it began in 2008, when I wrote this anthem, first as a poem, but later it was put to music, and the words, some words were left out, some words were shortened, So this anthem is of only 10 lines now, and it begins with our cosmic oasis, cosmic blue pearl, the most beautiful planet in the universe. So these are the opening lines, and the lines I really like. We are humans, the earth is our home, and all the people and all the nations, one for all and all for one. United we unfurl the blue marble flag. So these are the lines. Also about the line, united we stand as species of one earth. I think this was my attempt not only to have an anthem for human beings, but also to include the whole biodiversity on our planet in it. Because an earth anthem is not a world anthem, an earth anthem is more than that. And therefore, I, mm, I'm trying my best that it gets translated into more and more languages so that mm, many people across the world can and join in celebrating our planet, celebrating life on our planet, celebrating its beautiful biodiversity. So so that's why this quest, and that's why you know mm, your 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 help was very important to take this anthem across uh, different languages spoken in Southern Africa. I think mm, till the time you are back, I would like to mm, share that it has Earth Anthem is now available in more than 120 languages spoken across the planet, and hopefully soon it would be translated into many more languages. And I would like to request everybody who is listening uh, to to read this anthem and to recite it in their own language. Thank you.
I think, especially at a time like this, when there's been a global pandemic, when I watched the anthem online, I found it, the positivity, the good message, and the simplicity of the message, but the positivity was something that really appealed, and I think that many people will really engage it, from the youngest to the oldest. So I hope that some of the schools will also look into it as part of their concert programs and that sort of thing. Now, what I didn't mention in the initial snippet that I read out in the beginning is that you've also made available the ancient Sanskrit poems to the uninitiated, to the English world. You've brought the works of Kalidasa into the English language, and I think this is such an important and historical thing to have done, not just for people within the subcontinent, but for people around the globe, people like myself who would want to have access to such beautiful poetry. I know that, when you look online, they'll say Kalidas is known as the Indian Shakespeare, and I'm wary about making those kinds of connections, because we can enjoy and appreciate indigenous material without having to compare in that way. But yet, congratulations on these works, and tell us about that, about your inspiration and your motivation for doing, such great kind of taking such courageous steps and doing it so successfully.
Thank you. So during the lockdown last year, I happened to read a poem "Lockdown" by Simon Armitage, who is poet laureate of UK, and he had uh, mentioned Meghdut in his poem, and so mm, that was sort of that acted as a catalyst for me to to start translating Kalidas Meghdut from Sanskrit into English. Uh, but I wanted to read uh, Meghdut in original since a long time, and I wanted to do this translation because I also wanted to make a connection between India and Madagascar, and and a literary connection. So so for that, reading Meghdut very deeply was essential for me. And I thought that there is no better way to read a book very closely than translating it. I had studied Sanskrit in school, and that came very handy. And this book, in fact, has both the Sanskrit text and the English text, so that those who are interested to look at the original source can also see that, and and appreciate both these. Uh, so this book, for example, mm, I started translating it, and I think it took mm, me about 6 months to complete the whole process. It's a it's a it's not a very long book. It's a book of 111 stanza, and it tells the story of uh, yaksha, uh, a semi-divine uh, being who is expelled from the Himalaya, from the kingdom in Himalaya, for neglecting his duties for 1 year, and he has to stay in somewhere in central India, uh, and he misses his wife, uh, with whom he has been newly married, and he writes, he wants to send her a message. So it was a kind of a situation where he's in a lockdown, he cannot move out, everything is cut off, and he requests the cloud, a passing by cloud, that can you take this message uh, for me to my wife, and and then Kalidasa asks this question: can a cloud, a concoction of water and wind, radiant vapor and lightning, carry a message, usually done by a wise messenger in flesh and bone? He urged the cloud without paying attention to these, mad in love, for the lovesick, what's animate and what's inanimate. So, so the beauty of this book, is that it brings us back to nature. It it teaches us to see clouds and plants and rivers and and different kind of mountains as persons. So it personifies these, uh, whom the modern world sees as inanimate, and it sort of creates a new contract between the human being and the biodiversity around us. So this book, I think, becomes even more important to read today, when we have this uh, challenge, the whole world facing this challenge of biodiversity loss and climate change, because I think it's ultimately is the relationship between us and the nature that has to change, and Kalidas exactly tells us how to navigate that space.
So you've brought some very valuable information from the ancient texts and obviously made it available to a wider readership, who can read in English. And what about in terms of age? Would these texts appeal to a younger age group? our youth are becoming more politicized in wanting to connect, in wanting to make a difference.
I think, these translations are meant for the youth. I have done it precisely with that in mind, that the younger generation can access it and see the human emotions. They don't change, whether 2000 years ago and or even today. I mean, we have this, we fall in love, we have this same human emotions, and uh, mm, look what Kalidasa says. He describes this city of Alaka in the Himalayas, where the lovers, full of desire, with their impudent hands, undo the west string and toss aside the slackened silk garment of Yaksha women, who, covered in shame, throw a handful of churna on the jewel lamps with high flames. Ah, but in vain. I think that, this translation would appeal to the younger generation, because Kalidasa brings a unique blend of sensuality and nature. So, and both of these are eternal. Both nature and sensuality, they are part and parcel of each and every generation. So I think that makes Kalidas works everlasting, and I'm sure it will appeal, this Meghdut will appeal to the younger generation.
Well, I look forward to more of our readers getting hold of such valuable texts as you have written. What can we look forward to in the future? What are you working on at the moment? If you're able to give us a glimpse into your writing, what can we hope to see in the future from your pen?
So, I have just come out with a book on Madagascar. It's called The Magic of Madagascar. It's a set of haiku on the flora and fauna of Madagascar. My next, I have also, as I mentioned, I have written a poem called Monsoon, which is a book length poem and is inspired from Meghdut of Kalidas. And as the monsoon is born near Madagascar and travels all the way to the Himalayas, and so I use monsoon to send a message uh, to my beloved in the Himalaya, and describe the biodiversity of all these islands like Mauritius, Seychelles, uh, Maldives, Sri Lanka, and all the way on the left side, it travels through the Western Ghats up to the Himalayas, and on the right side, it travels through the Andaman and Nicobar and all the way West Bengal and Bihar and so on, Nepal and up to way north. So I mean, I have used this to the monsoon as a messenger to tell the story of the Indian Ocean, to describe the rich culture, cuisine, dress of different parts of Indian Ocean, different islands of the Indian Ocean, and also the western and the eastern flanks of India. So this is a very exciting book, which I am hoping that should come out next year. My dream is to write a book on Africa called In Light of Africa, just like my book on the alphabets of Latin America, which is about the whole continent. And I have been writing this a similar book. I mean, rather, I would say that I'm writing poems. Today, I was writing a poem about Timbuktu, and mm, and hopefully someday, if I have enough of them, uh, the whole idea is to bring out uh, the I mean the civilizational richness of Africa. Uh, in India or in many places, we do not actually know about the diversity Africa offers, and mm, and the riches it offers in terms of philosophy, in terms of history, in terms of culture, in terms of cuisine, dress, biodiversity. So I want to put together all these and present it to the readers who should, I think, know more about Africa. So I'm completely fascinated with the continent, and I'm looking forward to complete this book. Thank you. Meanwhile, while you get back, yes, I would like to introduce the readers to this book called The Alphabets of Latin America, which takes you across the Latin American continent. And here is a poem about mm, the Latin American writer called Gabriela Mistral. And here is the poem. Are you back? Wonderful. Read me your poem, and we shall float freely across the cosmos like a comet. Read me your poem, and I'll be blessed like a butterfly drunk on nectar. We shall drink the same verse from the fountain of the universe, like two hummingbirds in mid-air, like two hummingbirds, nothing more. You are swift wind, and I am a fearless horse, and we shall leap together to the moon, because we are two bodies, but one soul, and nothing more. Thank you.
Abhay, thank you so much for the beautiful rendering and for sharing such incredibly thought-provoking poetry and very spiritual. There's a very spiritual aspect to the way you write, even in terms of your tributes to city and relationships and all of that. And so I know that many readers will be clicking on the Amazon links and purchasing your books and getting to know more about your writing. Thank you so much for the time that you've given us this evening. And if you want to say anything to writers out there who are looking for inspiration, we'd love to hear your comments just before we say goodbye.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure to share some of my thoughts on my writing and my works with you. And I would like to visit Africa, and meet writers from there and share with them my works and learn about their works. Actually, uh, it would be a great opportunity and privilege for me to come um, to Africa, to South Africa, and and meet the writers and aspiring writers. One thing I would leave everyone uh, this evening with is that one of my most favorite writers uh, is Chinua Achebe, whom I grew up reading. Things Fall Apart, and he tells us that keep writing. Uh, you know, we as writers, we should we should bring out the positive stories. We should There's enough despair in this world, and I think our role as a writer is to bring hope, to bring courage, to bring perseverance, and I think I would like to do that. I would be happy to visit Africa and particularly South Africa, and share my works with all of you.
That's a beautiful thought to end off on, and a good reminder from Chinua Achebe as well. And I'm quite certain you'll find a very thirsty audience for your work when you do arrive on our shores, and when things open up, and when you can have some readings and literary events here. So we look forward to some of that. Once again, thank you so much for your time and for sharing so beautifully. We wish you all the best on your writing journey ahead as well.
Thank you.
And so there you have it. This evening session of Book Bites with author and award-winning poet Abhay K. We look forward to more sessions as we round up this year. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.